The Orlando Magic are ready, ladies and gentlemen. When it comes to young, exciting teams in the Eastern Conference, there might not be a team more poised to make a leap than the Magic. With Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner at the helm of a roster filled with intriguing young pieces, can this Magic team finally return to postseason basketball? I think that answer has to be yes. But first, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more NBA content. The season is almost here, and we have tons of great NBA videos coming your way to get you prepped for what should be an awesome season. It's been a while since there was real, genuine levels of excitement for Magic fans. They've made the playoffs twice in the last 10 seasons. Oh my God, that is just crazy to say. And haven't really had a true franchise-changing star since Dwight Howard was dominating the NBA in blue and black. But last year, that might have changed. Paolo Banchero ran away with the Rookie of the Year last season for the most part and opened the door for a new era of Magic basketball, one that involves him and German forward Franz Wagner leading the way on the wings for Orlando alongside a litany of young, intriguing players that will grow alongside that two-headed monster. It's also great because the duo are uniquely different in their play styles and approach. Wagner is more of a playmaking wing, a player you can see becoming the primary initiator on a playoff team. He's also big and strong, so he can scale up in position like Paolo, but is also a better shooter than Banchero, especially from behind the arc, at least at this stage in their careers. Meanwhile, Paolo is a little bit of a bruiser. His massive frame allows him to take contact and finish through it. He attempted nearly 8 free throws a game as a rookie, which is just ridiculous. And like Franz, Paolo has shown the ability to make plays for others, but more so as a high post hub, making passes from a standstill position. In fact, he excelled in that role for Team USA this summer at the FIBA World Cup as their backup center, running delay actions above the break, making passes, and punishing open lanes with his driving and finishing ability. The jumper for Paolo needs to improve. He shot nearly 30% on 4 attempts a game as a rookie, but ultimately, he projects to be a special presence on the interior, one that can make plays for others and play some pretty good defense both at the 4 and at the 5. Personally, I'm curious to see if Orlando plays Banchero even more at the 5 this season, especially after what we saw with Team USA and after he only played 3% of his minutes at center in his rookie year. In Franz and Paolo, the Magic have their building blocks, at least for the immediate future. And in order to build around their skill sets properly, you need extra ball handling, rim protection, and most importantly, shooting. The Magic were 24th in three-point percentage last season and 27 in attempts, and that's just not enough for the modern game. And while Orlando didn't make any big splash additions in the offseason, there is a good chance they look better offensively, especially in the shooting department this year. They signed Joe Ingles to a 2-year, $22 million deal, the 35-year-old point forward who can bring shooting and creation off of the bench for them. Now, Ingles is old and he's obviously near the end of his career, but he was still really important for Milwaukee last season off of the bench, and his shooting hasn't fallen off. He's a career 40% shooter, and he hit on 40% of his threes with the Bucks last season. If Ingles can just be a spot-up guy for the Magic off of advantages that Paolo and Franz create, that would be huge for them. On top of that, in the 2023 draft, they added Michigan wing Jet Howard to the mix, one of the best shooters in the entire draft, both off of the dribble and off of the catch. Howard is a versatile shot creator, and I think he'll end up being an elite shooter from day one. The thing with him is that he's not the best athlete despite being big, and he's somewhat slow-footed, so those are areas of his game that he needs to grow. But still, he's a rookie, and even at a bare bones level, this season he can provide some extra floor spacing for them. And while the additions of Howard and Ingles will help, perhaps where the Magic are hoping they can improve in the shooting department the most is internally. Through the improvements of Paolo, who I mentioned struggled as a rookie from outside, their other big men, Wendell Carter Jr., and 2 of their guards, Jalen Suggs and Markelle Fultz. With Carter Jr., the third front court player who starts next to Paolo and Wagner, the Magic have a versatile, do a little bit of everything big man. After struggling to find his footing in Chicago early in his career, Carter Jr. has had his 2 best seasons in a Magic uniform, and a lot of that is because of his improvements in the shooting department. In year 1 with Orlando, he shot a then career high 3.5 attempts from 3 on 32% shooting. Last season, he increased those attempts to 4 and hit on nearly 36% of them. While development isn't linear, if Carter Jr. can eventually become a consistent 38% shooter on decent volume, it would be huge for the Magic spacing problems, at least in the short term. While he doesn't necessarily solve their rim protection problems defensively in the middle, he's a good stopgap option at this point in time for Orlando. I love Wendell, and I think he's really good, but ideally, next to Paolo and Franz, you want a player like Miles Turner, who can shoot the ball more efficiently than Wendell and is an awesome rim protector defensively that can insulate them on that end. But I'm not here to talk about potential trades. Carter Jr. is good where he is right now, and I think ultimately if he improves his outside shot, he can be even more potent for Orlando's front court. The big question with Orlando, especially this season, lies in the backcourt with their guards. They have a logjam of talented guards between Fultz, Suggs, Gary Harris, Cole Anthony, and their lottery pick from this year, Anthony Black. Probably the safest bet to consistently come off of the bench for the Magic this year is Cole Anthony, who is a spark plug offensively who can both shoot you in and out of games. He is a talented one-on-one player, but ultimately with his size and defensive limitations, I think he's best served as a microwave scorer, cooking in transitional lineups for Orlando this season. Harris, on the other hand, ended the year as the starter alongside Fultz, and he really came into his own as a two-way presence for Orlando. He started in 42 of the 48 games he played for the Magic last year and shot the ball ridiculously well, knocking down over 43% of his threes. While he's more of a 38% shooter regularly, that was one of the main reasons he ended up starting, because he could consistently space the floor. On top of that, he's always been a mistake-free player, especially defensively, where he can be potent at the point of attack. Harris is 29, and I sort of like him as the Magic's starting two guard on opening night again this season, but he's going to have a lot of competition behind him. Primarily Suggs, the Magic's 5th overall pick from the 2021 draft, who's entering his 3rd year after battling through injuries in his first 2 seasons. Despite that, Suggs has shown flashes of his two-way prowess. He is a menace at the point of attack defensively. He's stout so he can navigate through screens well and guard up against wings and bigger offensive players. He has great anticipation skills, and overall, I really love his ability to defend for Orlando. The big question for Suggs is going to be the offense. While he's a talented playmaker and passer, he struggles to keep defenses honest as a scorer and especially as a shooter. He shot 27% from 3 in his first 2 seasons, but honestly, that doesn't tell the full story. Suggs has shown some serious flashes of improvement as a shooter. After shooting a woeful 21% from 3 in his rookie year, he improved to become a 32% shooter on 4 attempts in season 2. He had a few games last season where he knocked down 4+ threes, including clutch shots that showed off his impressive knack for rising to the occasion, as he did in college for Gonzaga. If there is anyone that might beat out Harris for his starting job, it is a fully healthy Suggs who has continued to improve offensively. And the thing with him is that he's so good defensively already and such a good passer and connector that if he can get to an average level as a shooter and scorer, he's going to be massive for Orlando. He sort of reminds me of Marcus Smart, who also struggled to find his way offensively, especially as a shooter early in his career, but eventually reached a level where it was sustainable to keep him on the floor. And if Suggs can do that, he can be one of the best role players the game has to offer. Another candidate to take Harris's spot at some point in the future, if not this season, is their rookie Ant Black. Black is a big combo guard standing at 6'7", who projects to be a great athlete, rim finisher, playmaker, and defender. Offensively, he's smooth as a pick and roll initiator and showed off an impressive feel for the game in the summer league. Defensively, his size allows him to be a pest against guards, and he has great anticipation skills that makes him elite as a weak side helper and roamer. The question with Black, as it is for literally all of Orlando's guards, is the shooting. He has a slow, methodical jumper that's really easy to contest, and while he shows promise to eventually become decent on that end, it's tough to see him having a shot to be a starter next season because of it. Ultimately, Black is a part of the long-term future for Orlando, a future where they have a bunch of rangy, plus wingspan, do-it-all type players on the floor for a potential playoff team. But as of now, both he and the rest of the team need to grow to get to that point. Speaking of plus wingspan, do-it-all guards, the player that is a must-watch for Orlando and the player who is most likely to have their starting spot be safe in the backcourt is Markelle Fultz. I can't begin to tell you how much I love Fultz's game. Have you ever played with a slinky before? He's like that, but in basketball form, just bouncing from one object to another before eventually finding his destination. He's able to bend and maneuver through crevices that most guards couldn't dream of, and he's just so poised as a playmaker and table setter for Orlando. Fultz missed the first 21 games of last season returning from injury, but once he did, the Magic were practically a 500 team when he played. Orlando started the year 5-17. Fultz returned from injury, and they finished the season 34-48. It's a seismic difference when he's on the floor, and he's been entrusted with the keys to be the main point guard for the team. Ultimately, again, shooting is going to be the biggest factor for Markelle. He shot a career best 31% from 3 on extremely low volume last year, and that's just not going to cut it, especially with Orlando's suspect shooting. Look, Fultz's struggles in the offensive department are well documented, and it's pretty awesome that he's bounced back to become a starting point guard on a potential play-in or playoff team this season despite it. But there's also hope that he can improve on that end. And if not, he's doubled down as a mid-range specialist, knocking down 47% of all of his mid-range shots, including 48% of his floaters. We'll see what he looks like when fully healthy this season, but I think ultimately he's shown how impactful he is already for Orlando, especially last year. And I think he's going to be huge again for them this season as they hope to make the jump to the playoffs. Speaking of, Orlando is projected at 36.5 wins for next season, which would have them just outside of play-in territory. And I think, given the improvements we've seen from Wagner and Paolo at the FIBA World Cup, given the fact that they've added some extra talent in Ingles, Howard, and Black, I think I'm going to say over. I mean, they won 34 games last season despite a putrid start without Fultz, and I think they can be a play-in team this season if they're fully healthy and give anyone a scare in that single elimination game. And at this point in their development, giving these young guys postseason reps is of the utmost importance. You want to see how Franz, Paolo, Fultz, Suggs, and the rest of the crew look like in a playoff setting. You want to see what can be improved on, what the team's weaknesses are, and how they can be addressed. Because soon enough, Paolo and Franz are both going to be all-star level players, and you need to find what it will require to turn this fun, frisky Orlando team to a perennial playoff team. But what do you think? Does Orlando reach the postseason finally this year? Let us know in the comments, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. See you guys later.